Guess what? I hate to break it to you, but your favorite rod and reel might not be cut out for finesse fishing. In today's video, I'm gonna break down the exact rod and reel setups for each finesse technique so you can maximize bait performance and stop losing fish. So the first one, which is gonna cover you for spy baits, drop shotting, even some of your small dragging baits, really like if you're gonna have one kind of finesse setup, this would be it. This is a 7.4 medium light setup on a spinning reel. This is a 2500 series. You can go with a 3000. This is the perfect setup for spy baits like our stay pin spy bait, drop shots, like our drop minnow, drop kick shad, even some of our micro baits that we would drag on the bottom, especially the lighter baits. Now, the key to this and why this is the perfect setup is it's 7.4 and it's medium light. It's gonna have a lot of soft tip in the rod. It's gonna absorb a lot of the shock. It's going to allow you to long bomb these small little baits with that length. That 7.4 is a long length. You're going to get a lot of distance. You're going to maximize your space between you and the fish to get some of those more pressured fish to bite. Not only are you going to be able to detect bites with this rod, this is our FINESSE CX rod that we've developed. It's got a carbon handle. You don't necessarily need a rod that's high end like this with a carbon handle, but definitely the length and that medium light action is critical. Now, we always go with pretty light line. In this case, what we found for these baits in particular is using 5 to 8 pound test braided line to a fluorocarbon leader. The fluorocarbon leader is generally around the length of the rod. We like that because it allows you to cast and not have the knot come out of the reel. It's going to give you enough separation between the braid and the bait, so it's pretty, sneaky. They can't see the line. And also, it's going to give you a lot of feedback. That braided line to a fluorocarbon leader, there's no stretch. So you're going to feel every bit of your bait movement down there. It's going to maximize the performance of your bait, and you're going to know exactly when to set the hook. I mentioned drop shotting. The reason why we love this 7.4 medium light for drop shotting is generally with these finesse techniques, we're using lighter line. That 7.4, that parabolic action that we get out of that medium light action is going to absorb a lot of the shock and allow us to get away with using lighter line. So we're not breaking fish off. With this setup, you can really present these baits effectively where they're super natural. We've maximized the performance of the bait, and we're also increasing our chance of landing those fish by using this light line and the parabolic action that's going to absorb the shock. If you want to take your finesse game to the next level and you want to go beyond a 7.4 medium light, the 7.8 medium light rods that we use really help us get more distance out of our smaller baits, and we find the smaller baits perform best with this setup. So let me dig into the rod a bit. This is the FINESSE CX 7.8 medium light. Pretty much anything in that 7.6 to 7.10 will pretty much perform like this. This rod in particular was built for our baits, so we get maximum performance out of our stuff. But really what makes a really good rod at this length critical for these baits is the length. That's going to give you the distance to throw these small little baits as far as you can. The medium light action, so it's a softer rod. It's going to absorb the shock because you're using lighter line. In some cases you're using 3, 4, 6 pound test line. And also it's going to give you the sensitivity you need to detect those bites at long range. A lot of rods that are lower end, you just can't feel the action of those little tiny baits, and you certainly can't feel the bites. This type of setup with the carbon handle, the high modulus graphite is going to give you the feedback you need to get the most performance out of your bait and also know when to set the hook. Now, when it comes to these longer rods, what really makes the FINESSE CX line unique, again, you don't need this, but these microwave guides just give you more distance, especially with light line. So check these rods out. They're going to be awesome. Now, when it comes to the baits that we're throwing on these super long rods, really, most anglers would relate to a hair jig. So think hair jig type style baits where they're super small, they're light, you want to get distance. So a hair jig, a sneaky underspin, a Cindy rig, think small little dragging baits that might be on like 16th ounce to 8th ounce heads, even 3/16 at times, to be able to get that bait out there, like a flat cat, a little Ned bug, a little snack craw. Those are the types of baits that we'll throw on these. Even, these latest trends like dice baits and stuff, slow falling baits, a light line setup like this that you can cast away out there, the 7.8 medium light paired with a a really good spinning reel with a really good drag. So you got good drag, you're not breaking off that light line, and you're also maximizing distance with the rod and the line. So the line's really important. We actually, for the most part, go with 5-pound test braid to a fluorocarbon leader. We find, I know it seems like it's not a big difference from going to like 8 down to 5, but I'm telling you, you're gonna get better distance and better feel and better performance out of your bait if you're down to the lightest braid possible. So when it comes to leaders, you generally want the leader to be about the length of the rod. We find that's enough separation, from the bait to the braid to give you the stealthiness you need to trick those fish. Generally speaking, we probably don't go above 8-pound tests with a setup like this. Usually it's 4, 6, 8-pound test at most. And that's pretty much the main setup we use when we're using these tiny little micro baits. So a quick note on line. A lot of people have the misconception that you need to match the line pound test with the size of fish you're catching. Please don't be mistaken. A lot of people think you need to use 5-pound test for fish that are 5 pounds or lighter. That's truly not the case. 5-pound test is super strong. You can catch fish that are so much bigger than that. More think about it as the breaking strength, so how much pressure you need to put on the line before that line breaks. That's where having the right rods that'll absorb shock and the right reels with really quality drags help alleviate the shock and allow you to fish with really light line. When it comes to these long rods like this 7/8 medium light, the one other reason why you want that long length is a lot of the time you're going to get a lot of bend in the top half of the rod, but the bottom end of the rod is still going to be pretty stiff. What that allows you to do is set your hook at long range and still get really good hook penetration. A lot of people go too light of a rod, and what happens is they set the hook, the whole rod loads up, and then those fish shake the hook. Having a rod with a good backbone is really important. So the third and last setup that we typically gravitate to, again, we keep it simple, is a 7/8 medium heavy setup. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking medium heavy, that is not finesse. I beg to differ. We've really dialed in a lot of our bottom dragging baits, especially like the juvie craw and a tube. And what we found is that having a stiffer rod, especially on a dragging bait that you're casting way out there, can have a major difference and impact on whether you land that fish or not. Now let's dive into the rod itself. This is a 7/8 Finesse CX. It's a rod that we designed. It's got a lot more power, but it still has some flex in the tip. What this rod will allow you to do is long bomb these dragging baits, whether it's a juvie craw, a finesse jig, a heavier Ned, a heavy football head. You're just going to get so much more distance because you've got that extra length that comes with 7/8. Then when it comes to the backbone, again, you're going to be able to drive the hook home. A lot of these techniques, we find the fish bite a lot earlier in the cast than some of the other finessier techniques. So having the power is really important. What we find is with baits like these tubes and these long bombing baits, is a lot of time the bite comes early in the retrieve. What that means is you've got a lot of separation between you and the fish. So you need that heavier action to not only drive that hook home, get really good hook placement, but also, control that fish. A lot of these smallmouth, they're going to jump straight out of the air as soon as they're hooked. They're going to shake their heads. And if you don't have good hook penetration and you have no control of that fish, they're going to throw the hook because you didn't bury it properly, or you can't turn their head and keep them from jumping and having full control. The last thing you need is them using the leverage of the bait and throwing the hook. So trust me, switch to a medium heavy rod, especially a long rod like this for those dragging techniques, and you're going to find your landing percentage goes way up. So generally when we're using this longer rod setup, we're going with slightly heavier line. In some cases, 8 to 12 pound test braid, and then we go to an 8 to 12 pound test fluorocarbon leader. The reason being, especially with these dragging techniques or anything that we're bouncing off the bottom, there might be a lot of zebra mussels, a lot of stuff down there that can break your line. So we're usually using heavier fluorocarbon leader, and we're also using heavier braided line just to reduce as much abrasion as possible and reduce our chances of losing fish. Even with the heavier line, you can still get incredible casts with this 7/8 power. So to recap, we're using a high quality spinning reel with a really good drag. Really keep it simple. The leader is generally the length of the rod. It keeps your knot from going in your spool. The only time we're gonna have a leader that's longer would be with a drop shot setup. Really, anytime you can, try to have your leader not going through your reel and coming through on the cast. So those are the 3 setups that we use day in and day out. We keep it simple. We've got a system that works. It truly is the finesse blueprint for our setups. And it's going to allow you to have a lot more success and take a lot of the unknowns and the stuff you maybe didn't feel like you truly understood out of the equation, so you can have really great days on the water. If you gained value out of this video and you liked what you watched, this is just one video in a whole series of Finesse Bootcamp videos that we put together, where we share all the knowledge that we've gained over the years and try to help you catch more fish. So like and subscribe to this video so you don't miss the next one.